Hi, good morning, everybody. It's Lee Pemberton here, and welcome to week 4 of our high performance service accommodation hotel business masterclass. So let's just start by recapping. Week 1 was very much focused on your strategy and what you want to try to achieve from your business, where you are right now and where you want to be 1 year, 5 years from now. So week 1 was very focused on your strategy. We talked in week 1 when we focused on strategy to look at where you are right now. So what I mean by that is, what type of business do you want to create? Are you looking at creating a service accommodation or hotel business where you are going to rent the property or lease the property? Cash flow may be a little bit tight, so you feel that's a good way to go. Or you may be in full-time employment still, and you're looking at potentially having someone manage your property for you. You may have some funds and you may want to purchase a property, or you may already have some properties already that you've bought years ago and you want to look at turning those into service accommodation. So week 1 strategy is very focused on looking at where you are right now and where you want to be going and how you're going to develop this high performance service accommodation business. Week 2, we focused on research. So then we said, right, okay, let's focus in on the areas and let's look at where you actually want to be looking at setting up your business. Now that could be local to you. I recommend you try and keep that within an hour of where you live. But at the same time, we talked about potentially setting up a partnership with someone that maybe is in a different location to you, and setting a business up along those lines. So week 2 was focused on research. Week 3, which was last week, we focused on authority. So now what we're saying is that you've done your strategy, you know where you want to be going, you know what you want to try to achieve with your business. You've done your research, you know where you want to set that business up. You understand the types of guests that you want to accommodate within your area, whether they're corporate or leisure, or a bit of both. And authority, week 3, was focused on making sure that you've got yourself in a position to be able to hold that authority when you go out and you talk to potential investors and landlords, and really focusing in on looking at where you want to be setting the bar, where you want the authority to be within your business. So last week we talked about setting up a website, and we talked about having your business cards and really just bringing together your strategy and your research all together and tying it all into getting yourself into a position of authority. And that's really important, because right now we're going to focus on week 4. Week 4 is focusing in on sourcing your property. So how do you get your property? So the great thing now is that we're into week 4 of this mastermind series. So you know what you want to be doing, you know where you want to be, you know how you're going to be able to go out there. Now you need the tools to know what to say, how are you going to do that, who are you going to approach, and how you're going to do that. So I hope within this short masterclass now that I'm going to be able to give you some tips on things that I've done over the years, and hopefully that will help you to get you focused in on getting out there and looking for property, because that's the key to this. The key to this is just hustling. You've got to get yourself out there. You've got to be known, and you've got to really command your marketplace. You've got to become like the KPI within your area. You've got to get people knowing about you, knowing about whether you want to set up, whether it's that boutique hotel, whether it's a service accommodation business or a service accommodation management business. You've got to be known in your area. And it all starts now by getting out there and hustling and sourcing property. So I hope I can give you a few tips. I've got a few notes to keep me on track. As most of you know now, I do tend to go off and I start kind of like going into lots of other areas. So I'm going to keep myself really focused in to make sure you get maximum value from sourcing your property. So let's go into that in a bit more detail. When we talk about sourcing property, let's just break that down. So it could be that you're looking to purchase property. So you're sourcing to purchase property. It could be that you want to purchase one apartment. It could be a block of apartments. It may be a small hotel or B&B, and I'll go through that in a bit more detail with you. It could be that you're looking at sourcing rental properties. So you're going to take these properties on the rent-to-rent strategy. You're going to guarantee the rent to the landlord, and then you're going to be letting those properties out on a kind of a nightly, weekly, short-term let basis to maximize the cash flow for yourself. So again, it's understanding, you know what your strategy is, you know what you're trying to do. And there's different ways of how you can even mix those together and create like a hybrid of those. And I'll share that with you as well as we go through this masterclass right now. So it's really important now that you understand exactly where you're trying to go with your business and what you want to achieve out of your business now. And you should have, over the past few weeks, done enough prep now to get yourself in a position where you're now ready and you're ready to go. So just take a moment and just reflect and make sure in your mind you know exactly what you want to do, because as we go through the sourcing side, you can then really home in on the area that you believe is going to work for you. And it could be, as I said, a mix of both. You could be looking at taking on rental properties initially to test the marketplace, and I really do encourage you, that's a really good way to start. Look at it as like R&D, your research and development. So you can pick your location, you've done your research, you now want to take on some rental properties where you can set up the systems, you can set up the processes, which we will go through in later weeks, and you can test everything out. You can really get to understand your guests that are coming in to stay with you before you commit to going out and purchasing a property. And that's exactly how I started sort of 20 years ago. And so I really do encourage it. It's a great way to start. A lot of the people that I work with do just that. It's very small liability. You're taking on a rental property with small liability, small risk. And I'll go into a bit more detail how we're going to negotiate that with a potential landlord in a short while with you. So rent to rent is a great way to get started in this business. It's a great way to get yourself up and running. Now that could be with one apartment. That may be with a block of apartments. It could be with a house. It could even be with a small bed and breakfast or a small hotel. So again, the same principles apply. It just depends on the type of property that you want to put that into. So rent to rent, leasing property can happen from a single unit all the way through to a block of apartments, through to a bed and breakfast or a hotel. The same principles apply. Okay, so rent to rent is great. Leasing properties is great. That's a great way to get started. You may decide that actually what you want to do is you don't want to do that. You want to actually just go out and start to manage other people's properties for them. You know, with the success of Airbnb and Booking.com, you can create the systems and the processes in place, and you can go out there and manage other people's properties for them. These could be landlords that they could own blocks of apartments, they may own one or two individual apartments, and you can take those properties off of them and you could manage them on their behalf. And that could be a great way as well in terms of sourcing property. And like I said, you could do a hybrid. You could have some rental properties, and then you take your systems and you leverage those out to be able to manage other people's properties as well. So we talked about this in real detail in the strategy session in week 1. So I'm not going to go into detail about that now in sourcing. But so I recommend, if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to week 1, because there's a lot of information there that I hope will help you. And even if you're an established operator, it may be things that you just trigger and think, oh yeah, I've kind of forgot about that. And it just may help you with that stimulation of kind of really helping kind of growing your business. Okay, so we've talked about owning property, we've talked about renting property, and we've talked about managing property. So these are 3 different ways of how you can source properties. Now, in order to source the properties, you've got to get yourself out there and you've got to start to talk to people, okay? Now, this may take some of you out of your comfort zone, and for some of you, you may feel really comfortable doing this, and you're like, Lee, I just want to get going with this now. Show me, give me the tools, get me out there, make this happen, okay? So let's break that down in terms of who are we going to be talking to. So when we're talking about sourcing property, we're going to be talking about agents and brokers. Now, whether that's taking one property on a rental basis, or whether it's taking a property that you want to purchase, there could be an agent involved. The agent's going to be there representing the landlord, so you've got to convince that agent that you're the right person to rent that property from their client, from their landlord. And I'll go through the pitch with you shortly and explain exactly what I would recommend, how I do it, and hopefully you may be able to get some tips from that. So we need agents. Okay, you can't get away from it. You're going to have to start to communicate with agents, and I'll go through that with you. Also, you may want to try and get to landlords directly. So landlords directly, I'd recommend websites, portals like Gumtree, OpenRent is where landlords would advertise their properties directly. And that's a great way to be able to communicate with landlords directly, get yourself in front of the landlord directly. So you may want to avoid, if you like, the agent and get direct to the landlord. Okay, remember, this is hard. This isn't easy. Okay, this is hard work. That none of this is easy stuff to do. Okay, but it's just about being persistent, and you got to just keep hustling. You got to keep getting yourself out there all the time and pushing yourself out there and make people aware of what you do. Okay, there's no easy way to do this. Okay, this is definitely not a masterclass giving you a really like a 5-step process, and this is really easy. Okay, it's hard work. You've got to graft. You've got to get yourself out there. Okay, but the rewards will come over time. Like, believe me, I've worked with clients previously that have said, Lee, I've been doing this for 6 months. I keep going back to the agents. I keep saying hello to them. I take them Easter eggs. I take them a hamper at Christmas and a bottle of wine throughout the year, and I'm still not getting anywhere. Then all of a sudden, that agent has a landlord, and that agent then will be in contact with you, and they will say, hey, I've got this property. Could this work for you? Okay, so it does happen, but it does take time. Okay, you're going to get a lot of rejections. Okay, so please don't worry about that. You've got to just move on and keep professional and keep developing those relationships all the time. Networking events, we talked about networking events under authority. Networking events are fantastic to tell everyone what you do and tell people that you're going to be setting up your service accommodation or your hotel business within that area. Okay, tell people that's what you're doing. Don't hide away from the fact this is a fantastic business. Okay, be proud of being involved with this business. Okay, you're sharing your hospitality knowledge and experience and passion with guests and with landlords, and you're going to get those landlords a good return on their property. Okay, and you're going to create a fantastic business for yourself. That's what you're focusing in on trying to do here. Okay, so don't lose sight of that all the time. Even when things go wrong, keep the focus on what you're trying to do all the time. So networking events are really good to share with what you're doing, and you never know who's going to be in that room, okay, when you go to those networking events. So definitely some things that I recommend to do there. Okay, so let's keep this on track. So we've talked about agents, okay? We can talk about deal sourcers. So there will be people out there, okay, that will source deals, and then they package those deals up and they sell those deals on, okay? And that could work for you. If you're short of time, that could work. Just do your due diligence, okay, is what I cannot stress enough to you. Really understand the numbers. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Understand the numbers and really make sure, really question everything. Okay, don't go rushing in and signing up and taking on property. Really do your due diligence, okay, on that deal sourcer, on the property itself. Get to know who that landlord is. Really understand everything about that opportunity. So some really good deal sources out there, but just make sure you do your due diligence on that. Okay. Now you could be looking at taking on a block of apartments. You may be established enough now. You've got a number of rent-to-rent properties within your area, and now you want to kind of combine those and bring those together and put them under one block. And that's fantastic. If that's where you are right now, well done. Congratulations. You definitely want to be pushing yourself now to the next level of taking on a block, because when you take on a block of apartments, obviously the economies of scale grow, but what also happens is you can then start to reduce your cost base. Okay, so your profit margins start to increase, and you're in a much better negotiation position when you start looking at working with developers on the block. Now, we sit here right now within the UK, and obviously Brexit is literally about to happen this coming Friday, as I record this masterclass right now with you. So we're in a time of real uncertainty. But what we do know is interest rates are still low, and developers want to continue to develop their businesses. So if you can offer that developer an option where you could take that building off of them, and you could potentially either kind of give them a guaranteed rental and maybe some profit share within that, okay, that could spread the risk for both of you. And it's a great way to be able to do that, which again, I'll share with you. So looking at blocks of apartments, walk the streets. That's what I recommend to do. You know, I live in central London. I'm working with clients right now that have given me a mandate to go out and find them blocks of apartments, okay? So I walk the streets every day looking and understanding my patch, understanding my area. I'm really niche, I'm really prime central London, okay? And I'm focused on that, and I'm walking the streets and I'm understanding what's available in these areas. And I recommend that you do exactly the same thing. Understand what developments are taking place. It could be 3 or 4 apartments that are being developed above or converted above a shop. They'd be perfect for service accommodation. They've got their own entrance. okay, with like 3 or 4 apartments sitting above that shop, okay, that would be perfect. It could be on the corner of a high street, and there's a development of, let's say, 12 units being built, okay? Again, being able to go in and see if there's an opportunity to be able to work with that developer, okay? So I encourage you, push yourself out there, because you just never know. By going out and talking to developers, you can see their details, you can go onto the planning portal, you can see their information, you can contact them directly, okay? Use that authority that we went through last week together, okay? And really, really just focusing on trying to see how you can get a deal to work that works for both sides. And that's the key thing here. It's a deal that works both ways. Okay, so I want to talk about pitch, because if we're going to go out and talk to agents, or we're going to talk to landlords, or we're going to talk to developers directly, it's really important that you have your pitch, okay? We talk about this kind of like 30-second elevator pitch, okay? You should be able to do your pitch within 30 seconds, okay? And the person you're speaking to should get a good understanding to what you are offering, okay? Remember, a negotiation works on both sides. So you may adapt that pitch slightly, okay, depending on the person that you're talking to. So if you're dealing with the landlord or a developer directly, okay, your pitch may be slightly different to the agent that has to sell you to their client, okay? So it may just have to be slightly altered, all right? But tell people what you do, okay? I hear and see so many people saying that they're going into agents on the high street, and they're saying that they're running a relocation business, or they're running a corporate business, and they want to sort of take on property along those lines. Like, be open, tell people what you do. I go to the agents all the time, okay, within my patch, okay? I walk in and I tell them what I do, okay? So I specialize in serviced accommodation, and I'm looking for property. Do you have any landlords that may be interested in looking at having their properties guaranteed rent being received? Okay, we will take that property and we will run that property on a short let basis. So be honest, be truthful about what you do. Okay, I can't like stress that enough to you. There's some big advantages for landlords to want to work with you. Okay, with Section 24 now coming to the point now where they're going to have to pay all their mortgage interest relief, they're not going to be able to claim back anything on. Okay, by running this property as short-term, what we call a furnished holiday let, okay, under HMRC's terms, it means that they are able to claim back their mortgage interest relief payments. So this is a big advantage that I really recommend to do when you're talking to landlords directly or to agents, okay? Capital allowances, there's a great opportunity where they can claim back any allowances within their building. So it could be that they've had a new kitchen or new bathroom or a new boiler that's been placed. Okay, there's specialists that do these things, okay? And I recommend that this is something you should share as well. So potentially they could have a tax-free business for the first year or so if you're managing their property for them. Okay, and there's ways of how that can be structured. So these are great things that you want to get into your pitch. You don't want to kind of blurt it all out in one go, okay? But these are things, little nuggets that you want to drop into the conversation where something will then spark and go, oh, tell me more about that. How does that work? Okay, so remember, if you're doing it on an operational basis, you're guaranteeing the rent to them. You're taking this property on potentially for 3 to 5 years. Yeah, you're going to probably put a break clause in just to make sure it's working on both sides. But they're going to get guaranteed rent from you for a long period of time. They're going to have no void periods in their property. And this is fantastic for a landlord that just wants to know they've got steady income coming in every single month. You can set it up where they can come and view the property on a quarterly basis if they want to, just to be reassured that you're looking after their property for them. But I encourage you, take over everything to do with that property. Tell them that you will manage that property for them. You'll organise the gas safety certificates and the PATS testing for them. You'll give them those certificates. Obviously, they'll pay for it, but manage those things for them. Give them a solution that is completely hassle-free if that's what they're looking for. So it's important from the very beginning that when you've done your kind of initial pitch of what you do, what you offer, that you then really try to understand what the developer, what the landlord, what the client is looking for. And then that's how you start to then kind of build up that rapport with that person that you're negotiating or you're speaking to. Okay, so some key tips that I recommend that you bring in from day one when you're looking at putting your script together. Okay, be open, be transparent, tell them what you do. Okay, we spoke last week under authority about having a website. Okay, but you could just even have just like a kind of simple PDF that's just like a flyer that just has information, has a bit of biography about yourself, a little bit of information about your vision and what you're trying to do. Talk about the marketplace and what the challenges are right now, and then your solution and how you are being able to put a solution in place for that landlord to help them. Okay, so just keep it really simple with those like kind of key points. Okay, and keep referring back to that all the time is what I recommend you do. So you've got your pitch. You go into that landlord, okay, it could be via an agent, okay, and you share with them exactly what you're looking at doing. If you're looking at taking on a hotel, okay, you can take a hotel. If you're going to negotiate on purchasing a hotel, you may decide to do it on an option basis. This is where you have an option to buy the hotel. Okay, so typically with kind of small B&Bs and small hotels, okay, should we say the management accounts may not always be up to date, okay, and so therefore could be an opportunity here where you could say, look, we'll take over the running of your hotel, your B&B. You can move out of the property. We will give you a guaranteed rental on that property for, let's say, 3 years. So you can go to Spain, enjoy the sunshine, or do whatever you want to do, Mr. and Mrs. Hotelier. We would take over that property. You will then repurpose the space within that hotel. So you're going to have a bit of investment going into that hotel to create what we call like a smart hotel, to really get that small B&B hotel up and running for you, okay? You've got it on a lease with an option to buy it. Okay, so now you get the accounts to the level where they are sustainable and they are good, making good profits, which you can do if you focus in, okay, and keep following this program over the coming weeks. And you've got high occupancy and a great profit, okay, now you can go to a bank and now you'll be able to get a loan on that property, which means that you can borrow enough monies potentially to pay off the hotelier that's just been enjoying the rental income that you've been paying them over a period of time. Now you own the property. So a lease option, a lease purchase option can work really, really well for hotels. You could do the same thing if you want to with a block of apartments or even a single property, a house or an apartment too. Okay, so I'm just giving you an example of how it has worked. I've seen it work really well with people that I work with, okay, within the hotel space. So that's maybe something that you want to kind of like look at developing. If you have any questions as we're going through this masterclass, please comment, okay? If you're listening to the Facebook Live now, fantastic. Thank you for listening live. Okay, if you're listening to the recording, you can still leave comments, okay? And I will come back and I will answer those for you. Okay, and if you want a real kind of in-depth and want to know a lot more about kind of sourcing, I'm really happy to have a 15-minute consultation call, just free. I'm happy just to share my knowledge around that for you, okay, just to get you on the right track here. Okay, so this is what this is all about. We all want to create a high-performance service accommodation hotel business. It starts from sourcing the right properties from day one. Okay, so you've got your pitch. You know exactly the tips that you're going to be using now to go out and to use as part of your negotiation. Remember other things that you can bring in as part of that negotiation, and don't do all this in the first meeting, okay? You do this, you drip feed this into the conversation. So ideally, you don't want to be having to put down a deposit if you can help it, okay? From a cash flow perspective, you want to try and hold the cash back. Some people like to put a deposit down knowing that they've got that cash there, sitting there for when they return that property in like 2 or 3 years' time. For me personally, I like to keep hold of the cash. So therefore, I would use like a deposit protection scheme insurance policy. So you can bring an insurance policy in that will basically act instead of having to put cash down, it will be an insurance policy in place. So that's quite a useful tool to use. Okay, so I recommend you try to use that as often as you can. That's worked quite well for me. You want to try and negotiate, if you can, a rent-free period. So depending on the size of the building, so if we're looking at a hotel or we're looking at a block of apartments, okay, so what the deals that I'm currently working on right now, which are like blocks of apartments in prime central London, okay, I'm negotiating like a 3-month rent-free period. Okay, so I'm saying like the first 3 months will be rent-free, okay? But we're taking these buildings on a 5-year basis, okay? Again, with like an 18-month break clause in place, but we're looking for the first 3 months as a rent-free period. So it depends on the landlord, it depends on the size of the property, okay? But at the least, you want to try and negotiate a 1-month rent-free period, because remember, there's going to be no voids. Once you're up and running and you're paying the rent, it's rental income that landlord's going to receive every single month, okay, for the period of that time that you're in contract with them. So they're not going to have a void period. It's not like they're going to let it for a year and then it's going to be empty for a month and then another month while they then find another tenant, okay? So I would definitely try to negotiate like either 1 month's free rent or like 10% off of the rental income, okay? Now, for some landlords, if they need to be obviously refinancing, remortgaging, what we've done before is we've kind of like, they've given us a 1 month's free rent, but we've set the rent at the kind of like the rack rate, like the standard rate, okay? But we've had a side note where they've given us like the first month free because they need to be able to show like obviously the higher income when they're looking at that as a multiple to be able to obviously get their finance. So again, understand the landlord situation and work with them with that, okay? Furniture, you can negotiate, if possible, with the landlord, get the landlord to pay for the furniture, okay? You could do that obviously by him or her buying that outright, or they could do it on a lease basis, okay? But again, they're going to be able to claim all that back. Okay, so try and encourage them to pay up for the furniture where you can. So ideally, if you can get a kind of a rent-free period, no deposit, okay, furniture ideally included, you know, you're onto a cracking deal. That's what I would say, okay? So they're the things, you may not get all of those, okay? Don't beat yourself up about it, but it's worthwhile trying to push yourself, trying to see if you can get those. Okay, so you've set up the deal with the landlord, okay? You understand the numbers and stuff now. It's really important now that you pull all this together, okay? I've shared within the academy, there is a profit matrix. So make sure you plug your numbers into that profit matrix, okay? There's also a 5-year cash flow forecast. Plug your numbers into that forecast. I encourage you to do that. Make sure, obviously, you can see where there's the dips in the low seasons, okay? And just make sure you really understand the business and then make sure the numbers work, okay? So whatever the rental is that you're paying, whether you're taking a building on, as I said, as a hotel on an option basis, whether you're taking that property on for a sourcer or for an agent or for a landlord direct, just plug all the numbers in and really make sure you understand those numbers, okay? Stress test it, do your research, make sure that you really understand, okay, exactly what you're going to be signing up for, because you don't want to be going back to that landlord in a year's time saying, this just doesn't work, I've been overpaying you and I can't get it to work, okay? So really do your numbers, do your due diligence and really understand that, okay? As I said earlier on, this is all about consistency, okay? So you need to get as many leads as you can. You need to be building up, okay, a spreadsheet, maybe putting them into a CRM system, but just a basic spreadsheet alone, okay, where you're keeping track of all your agents you're contacting, your landlords you're contacting, your developers that you're contacting, and keep in contact with them, okay? Keep the communication, the dialogue open with these guys all the time, because they may not have anything today, but they may have something in the future. Create your business card like we spoke about in Authority and your website, and maybe a PDF that you can leave with them so they know who you are, they know you're in this marketplace, you're the specialist within your area of what you're trying to do, okay? But it's a consistency of keep building up those leads and keep in contact with people and keep building upon that, okay? Get to know everyone within your marketplace, make sure they know of you as you go out there and you start to source property. Okay, so I've got 5 points that I just want to share with you now to kind of summarize where we are with all of this. And I hope that this masterclass has been really useful, thinking about the pitch, the negotiation, okay, and how to get out there and start to find your properties and how you're going to build up your portfolio. And so the first point I want to make is be really clear with your strategy, exactly what you want to achieve. So if your aim is to take on, say, 12 properties within the year, and therefore you're going to break that down, say that means 1 property per month, that means you need to get out and view X number of properties to make sure you sign up that 1 property. Now that would be a tall ask to really go out there and do that, okay, unless you're well established and you've got a team of people helping you, okay? So if you're starting off, I'd say try and aim on like 1 property in 3 months. Okay, one property in 3 months. Focus on that initially. Get that up and running. Get it working, and then maybe you take on property number 2. After your first 6 months. Okay, if you can end the year with having, say, 3 properties, fantastic. If you want to be a bit more aggressive with the growth, then you may like bring people in like sources and stuff. And if you're like saying, actually, I want to get to 5 properties, make sure you've built the cash flow in on that 5-year cash flow forecast so you know exactly what you need to pay out. Okay, it's really important that you really focus in. You know exactly where you want to go. If you want to focus on finding your first hotel, fantastic. I applaud you with that. Okay, but again, do exactly the same principle. Know your numbers, know what you want to try to achieve, and the same obviously with a block or houses. So that's point number 1. Build your database is number 2, okay? And you have to keep hustling and working and building upon those leads, and keep getting your presentations out there and keep meeting people and keep sharing what you do, okay? So that's point number 2 that I wanted to make with you, okay? Number 3 is really get to know your numbers as I shared with you, okay? Work those spreadsheets, okay? As I said, there's a 5-year cash flow forecast in the academy. There's also a profit matrix there for you to use. Work the numbers. Really understand what you're trying to do, okay? Be passionate is number 4. Tell everyone what you do, okay? Be the authority within your space. Know and really, really focus in on what you're trying to do with your business here, okay? All right. And number 5, which I feel is really important, okay, is that you're going to get loads and loads of knocks. You're going to get people knocking you back saying, no, we don't do short lets. No, we don't do service accommodation. No, I'm not interested. No, 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 no. It will happen loads of times for you. Be resilient, be resistant, okay? Keep pushing forward, keep focused on what you're trying to do. And believe me, you will break through that, okay? And that first property, that first hotel, that first block to work with a landlord, it will happen for you, okay? But keep the passion, keep the focus with everything you're trying to do, okay? So that's week 4. Wrapped up, okay? That's our week 4 masterclass focused on sourcing property, okay? If you have questions, please share in the comments box, okay? If you want to really speak specifically about an individual deal that you may be working on, I'm happy to give you a 15-minute consultation call, okay? Just message me and we can obviously arrange a time that works for both of us, okay? So best of luck. Okay, really good luck over week 4 now, okay, with pulling all this together for you, okay. As we move now into week 5, we're going to be talking about onboarding your property, and then we're going to move on to marketing and sales and ops and finance and all the fun stuff that comes in the future weeks as we build out this 12-week program. So thanks so much for watching. I really hope you're getting good value. Please share any comments that you may have, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.